Tonight we'll do an introduction to the PHP programming language. The language originally stood for personal homepage. And then it changed, the first P now stands for personal homepage. The H stands for hypertext preprocessor. Is now what it stands for. But when it originally came out, it was called personal homepage. So I think personal homepage is easy to remember, even though it now is personal homepage hypertext preprocessor. And the way it works is kind of like this. We talked about last class that if you're on a computer and you go to, you connect your computer through the internet, to, let's say, the Facebook server, since everybody at campus here seems to love to go to Facebook all the time. If you go to, if you point your web browser to http:// that means you're looking to connect to a web server and get a web page back. www.facebook.com goes through the internet, translates to the IP address of this machine and says, give me a web page. And the web page comes back to you and you see it. There's an opportunity for the web server, if it wanted to, when you go to request the web page, I'm just going to make the web server a bigger box. When you go to create the web page, if the web page has the name xyz.html, when you go to ask for that page, it will come right back to you, as is. Nothing has changed. If the web page has a name xyz.php, it's almost the same as if it was a normal HTML page, with one difference. The fact that it's a PHP program means there is you can kind of think of this as a mini computer, but there's a PHP processor, and the second P now stands for preprocessor. Preprocessor means it gets processed. A program is run before the page comes back to you. So the page that you're asking for is sitting on the server. It's a file on the server. Looks a lot like an HTML file. Except before it comes straight back to you, it goes through this PHP personal homepage hypertext preprocessor, and a program is run on it, on the server. The program is not run here like with JavaScript. The program is run on the server, and then the results get sent back to you through the internet. And you'll see the results after the program runs. So if you took a page, let's say you had a page xyz.html, and you just renamed it xyz.php, it would look exactly the same to the person who's getting it. It would run through this preprocessor, and this preprocessor only removes blocks that say PHP on them. If they don't have the PHP tag, they come right out as they were, so nothing would be changed. If there's a PHP tag, then that block is removed from the page, and the program between those tags is run. And whatever it replaces it with, that's what comes back. Okay, so I'll go through this. It might make more sense when we see some examples. So, I wrote some examples, and they start off kind of simple, and then they gradually get more complicated, I guess. And there's another thing about PHP files. When you click on a file, it opens up like a web page. But if you want to see the source to it, if you name the file, if you let it end with PHPS, that means it's the source code for that file. So for example, this if I click on this link, this will bring me to a web page called, you can see it down here, it says example1.php. So I'm going to click on this, and this is a really simple web page. It's a web page that just says hello world. And that's a popular, first time you write a program, a lot of books always have the first program you ever write is the hello world program. So basically, it's a web page that says hello world. Now, if we want to look at the source code for this, the source code, I'm going to click down here. So basically, I have the web pages here, and then this is the source code for the web pages that we see above. So we look at example 1, is hello world, and the source code looks like this. So it looks like this is now not an HTML file, this is a PHP file. But what I said was PHP files are just HTML files with one additional tag. So this looks like normal HTML, right? This is the HTML tag, the header tag, the title tag, the end of the header tag, the body begins here, the body ends here, and the HTML ends here. So this looks like HTML you've seen before, right? Nothing new. The only new piece is this new block, the question mark PHP. And now I'm putting in a comment here, so this, no one will ever see this. This is just so in case we want to go back and make changes, we could remember why we did what we're doing. And all I'm doing here is I'm saying I'm running the PHP command, says print, and I'm putting out the string hello world. So when this gets sent to the receiver, the person who's coming and looking for this page, they're going to get the HTML tag, the head tag, the title tag, the end of the head, the beginning of the body. This chunk of code here will be removed, and it will be replaced with just the words hello world. And then you'll get the end of the body and the end of the HTML tag. So when we go to get this HTML page, this section, the HTML preprocessor on the server removes this. All the PHP blocks always get removed, and they get replaced with whatever the instructions inside the block say to replace them with. Now you might be thinking, why did I bother to, well wait, first, before I do that, let's look at the code. Now that I brought up this page, let me bring up the source. The source for this page is this. This is what I, as the client, received from the server. I got the HTML, the head, the title, the end of the head, the body. Then I just get hello world. Actually, I should have probably put in a new line. I get the end of the body and the end of the HTML. The PHP block has been removed. So what I'm saying is, this is the file I went looking for. I asked for this file from the server. But what I got was a little bit different. I got all of this stuff, but the PHP block I didn't get. That was removed, and it was replaced with the string hello world. It was removed on the server. So the program that took this block and ran this program, now it's a one-line program, all it does is print out hello world. That ran on the server, and its results were put out in its place. So you might be thinking, why did I bother to do this? Why didn't I just type in the words hello world here and get rid of this whole PHP thing? Well, in this case, it doesn't make much sense. But other examples you'll see might make sense. So let's say, let's look at the second example of using variables. So now, this is kind of building towards something that makes sense. This one will also not make sense to have done PHP here. So this is an HTML file, but now it's been converted to a PHP file. So that means we get this extra block, the block that says the PHP and the tag ends down here. What I'm now doing is this. I'm creating a variable. I'm saying Terry. Terry was born, year, I'm making a variable called year born, 1985. Month born is 7, day born is 2, so July 2nd, 1985. And then I'm going to count, now I'm running a program and I'm asking the computer that I'm running on, the server that I'm running on, what is today's date, and I'm actually interested in today's year. So you could pass in parameters and ask for different things, like what's today's year, what's today's day, what's today's month, that kind of thing. So we get today's month, today's date. We can now calculate the age of the person. So we say the current year minus the year they were born. We calculate their age. And then based on what month it is, might determine whether they are, what their age is. So we'd say if the current month is less than the month you were born, then we'll subtract one more from your age because your birthday hasn't come yet this year. So we can now do calculations, and then these are our if statements, and we could eventually figure out when their birthday is, and if today is their birthday, we can say to them, happy birthday. And if today is not their birthday, we just won't say anything, and then we could say what their age is. So if we went to this web page to see this, web page, what would we expect to see? So we would expect to see, it says Terry is 26 years old. Now, what is today's date?
25th.
So, for example, I could change this code to say,
Project 2.
If I change this code to say, today is
25th.
January, what's today's date?
25th.
25th. If I save this, if this person happened to log in today, then now it's doing something slightly different because today happens to be this person's birthday. It's saying, happy birthday, Terry. Terry's 27 years old. Okay, so again, what the code was doing was this. The code was saying, somehow I found out what day this person was born. Then I asked the computer, what is today's date? Based on the day, month, and year, I figured out what their age is. And then I also threw in if the month matches the month, if today's month matches the month they were born, and today's day matches the day they were born, then we'll print out happy birthday. Otherwise, we won't. So if this person came to this web page every day, on their birthday it would say happy birthday, but the other days it wouldn't. So that's where a web page is changing depending on what day it is. So this program, from the beginning of the PHP block to the end of it, runs on the server. All of this gets removed from the web page, and what gets replaced is whatever you tell it to replace it with. And what we said was, sometimes we'll say happy birthday, sometimes we won't, but we'll always say the person's name and tell them what their age is. That'll always come out, and then once in a while a happy birthday comes out. Okay. So, another example is this one. This is code where, let me bring up what the code looks like. What I'm saying here is, in example 3, I'm saying hello world, so that's kind of a copy of example 1. But now I could do things like I can print the information about the server that I'm running on, and I could even print the IP address of the machine you're on, the client is on. So when you send a message from your computer to Facebook saying, I want a web page, Facebook knows the number of your machine because it has to send the message back, and it can record it if it wants. So in this case, by running this code, it says hello world, which is just a copy of the previous one. Now it's saying you are using Mozilla and Windows, attributes about the machine that the server is running on, and then it's also telling me what my IP address is. And this is actually a local IP address. This is only on campus here. Outside of the campus, it would have come out a different number. Okay. Okay, now echoing form data. So, let's look at this code. This is a web page that has nothing to do with PHP. So I really didn't even need to name this file PHP. So this is straight HTML. It's a web page. There's a form on the web page. So I'm going to ask for the person's name, the year they were born, and what their favorite color is. And I'm going to save whatever they told us. And the action of the form will be to go to a web page called Example 4 Step 2. So this is Example 4 Step 1. I'm going to send the results of the form to Example 4 Step 2. And then Example 4 Step 2 is this web page. And this web page is saying, okay, now this one is going to receive the answers that the person gave. So they're going to receive the name and the favorite color and the year they were born. I'll save those into variables. Then I'm going to do, this is some encoding, you have to worry about this right now. What I'm saying here is I'm now going to print out the background color. So you know when the HTML tag says body BG color equals some color? I'm actually generating the HTML that says I want the background color of this web page to be whatever the person said their favorite color was. Then I'm going to say hello, whatever your name is. I'm going to figure out what today's date is. I'm going to compare that to the year, I'll get the current year. I'm going to subtract the current year from the year they were born to figure out their age. And then I'm going to say you are whatever your age is, and display that. So does it make sense what this web page is trying to do? So for example, if somebody was to fill out, let's say someone give me a name, a first name. John? Okay. And what's a year born? Just pick a year, let's say 1976. All right. And then a favorite color. Now this would have to be like a real color.
Blue.
Orange.
Orange?
Tangerine.
We'll try teal in a second. I don't know if the HTML would know this. So what's happening here? I'm gathering up three. This is a web page where we created a form. The person is being asked some questions, and I'm going to hit a button. And then what happens when we hit the button? The action of the form is to go to. The action of the form is.
It's in orange.
What's that?
It has come up in orange.
I'm sorry?
It has come up in orange,
Okay.
as we've said.
So this is what's going to receive the three answers. So here's the web page we're going to see as soon as we hit the button. It's the web page that says HTML, head, title, head. This is the same as any other HTML block. Now this PHP chunk, this is going to get removed, and it's going to get replaced with whatever the code here tells it to replace it with. So what does this stuff do? Well, it reads the three answers, so that's not, we're not going to see anything, which is reading answers. We're running a function on the answers. Now we're outputting, print means something we're going to replace it with. It says body background color equals whatever color they gave us. So now I'm generating an orange. The answer I'm going to submit in a second is orange. I'm going to submit orange as a color. Then it's going to say hello, whatever name I typed in. It'll say hello, John. And then I do a calculation based on what year they were born and what the current year is. I say you are, whatever the answer is, that many years old. So the web page we're going to see is going to be orange because you chose to answer orange. And actually, if the HTML that says background color equals, if we put teal here and the browser doesn't know what teal means, it'll probably come out white because it doesn't know what color that is. But we'll try that in a second. So the web page we're going to see, when I hit this button, if you're going to see these 4 lines of code, this whole section will be gone. And it will be replaced with background color equals orange, hello, John. This will all be gone. You are, and whatever the age is, that's how old you are. So that's all the web page we're going to see. So, what's that? Okay, so when I hit this button, I'm sending these 3 answers to the web page we just saw. and the screen turns orange, and it says, "Hello, John, you are 36 years old." So if I wanted to view the source of what we're looking at, all that PHP stuff will be gone. View source. This is the web page we got. We got these 4 lines on top. That whole PHP that whole PHP chunk was removed, and it gave instructions to replace it with background color equals orange, "Hello, John," new line, "You are 36 years old." That entire chunk of code was removed. The program was ran on the server, and we just get to see its results. So let's try teal. If it doesn't know the color, so what's a different name? Anyone want to give me their name? No? Emily, want to say you really?
1776. 1990.
90, okay, and we'll say teal. I think teal's a legitimate color. Oh, okay, so I got it. So now it's saying, with a teal background, it's saying, "Hello, Emily, you are 22 years old." I didn't bother doing that month, and so you might be 21 or,
Yeah.
okay. You're almost 22?
December.
Okay. So yeah, the previous example where I calculated the month and day, that would have made your age come out 21. Okay. So that's an example of that. But what I want to get, the point I want to get across is that we can do things like perform a computation before you see the answer. So instead of like the web pages you've created so far in your IT 250 class, you create the web page, you hit save, and you look at the web page. If you come back 3 days later, it's going to look exactly the same. Nothing's changing. Now we're coming up with web pages where if you come back 3 days later, and maybe you aged a year, you might see that you're 22 years old, not 21 years old. Yet the web page hasn't changed. It's the same exact web page, it's just that the program results are changing. So this is a real powerful thing. Your web page could be set up to do every time you go to the web page, it does something different because the day of the week is changed. Like, in other words, we could have a web page that says today is, what is today? Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday. But when you go back to the page tomorrow, you would like it to say today is Thursday. So if you code it up in an HTML file, today is Wednesday, and hit save, it's going to tell you it's Wednesday every day. But we don't want that. We'd like to be able to have a PHP block that says to the computer, what is today's date, and then replace it with Thursday or Friday or whatever the day is. So every time you go to the page, it will change to whatever day it is that day. So this is where the HTML page is being generated at the moment you ask for it. Okay, so let's see, example 5, writing data to a file on a server. Okay, so in this code, again, I have a form. So we're going to see forms a lot in this class. Why are we going to see forms a lot? Because it's a programming class. And a programming class needs input. It needs some information, performs a task, and then says, here's the results. So how do you give input from a web page? It's through a form. Okay, so we have a form, and I copied the last example. It says, what is your name? I set the name in a variable called name. What year were you born? What's your favorite color? What is different about this? This looks exactly like the last example. But this time, instead of bringing them to a web page, that's the color that they like, and it tells them how old they are, what we're now going to do is save their answers. We're going to save their answers to a file on the server. So we're going to open up a file and open up a TXT file, save the answers there. We're going to open up the file. So again, this is our PHP block from here to here. This will get removed and it will be replaced with, but we could also run a program. We're going to open up a file. We're going to take the answers that they gave us, plus I'm also using example 2, I'm recording their IP address. And then I'm going to print out a line that says, thank you for completing our survey. So when someone goes to answer this question, for example 5, what will happen is, it looks like the same exact form, but now let's just use a different name, just so we could be unique. So anyone have a name they want to give me?
George.
George? And a year born?
1982.
And a favorite color?
Red.
Red? Brown? Okay, so now, this page says, thank you for completing our survey. But what did we do with their answers? We went and put their answers on the server. So my login ends up being the server in this case. In my public HTML file, under 19450, output. Okay, so what I did in this, so what I'm doing now is I'm putting up a web page, asking people for questions. They hit a button and I say, you know, thank you, we have your answers or whatever. And what I'm doing is I'm taking their answers and recording them into a file. So we could put up a web page, ask people questions, and then save their answers. Now what we'll do later on in this course, instead of saving it into a TXT file, example5.txt, instead of saving it there, we're going to save it into a database, which would be a little bit, you know, easier for us to go and get it later. Okay, so if I wanted to add another one, I could just go like this. I could go back to this web page, and I can add another one. Let's say Mary, 1983, and favorite color pink. And I could hit enter, and now we've taken her answers. And yes, okay, so now this file has the new answers. And actually what we could do in a little while, maybe you could all log into one page and I can see all your answers for a question. But so basically what I've done here is I have a web page that asks people questions, and I gather up all their answers into one file. So then you might think, well, wouldn't it be nice if a web page could read from a file? So that's our next example. Reading from a file on a server. So here's a page that will read from an output file. It'll go and read from an output file. And I'm actually, in this case, I just want to kind of demonstrate that this can be done. What I'm doing is I'm taking the fields that are delimited by a tab. So I don't know if you noticed, the answers that you gave to the previous example were put in a text file and there was a tab between them. So now I'm going and I'm dividing them up by tabs. That's what the /t is. And I'm actually reading only so the first field is this field 0, then field 1, then field 2, and field 3. So we had field 0 was the name. Field 1 was the year of birth. Field 2 was the color. So I'm actually only reading the person's name and their favorite color. I'm not reading anything else. So if I go to look at this page, if I go to bring up this page, reading file from it, what I ended up doing was this web page, before it displayed itself, it went out to that file where the answers were. It read George's favorite color was brown, Mary's favorite color was pink, and printed that out. So this page will display, will change depending on what the file it's reading from, what those contents are. So now, if I went and just added more people to that file, for example, if I said, anyone want to give me another name? Brian. Ted, I gotta give the year, 1984. Ted, I'll do blue. Ted and, okay. If I now say save, if I go back to this web page, Right now, this web page, every time I go to it, what does it display for me? This web page is a PHP program. So it reads from that file and then displays the person's name, whatever that file says. So if we make that file really big, this web page will change with it. This page is displaying the contents of some other file, some of the contents of another file. So if I reload this, this now has the new person and their new file. So we get, the idea is that when we go to this web page, we're seeing content that is not even part of the file. Part of the web page itself. It's reading content from a different file and just displaying what's out there. So have you ever gone to a web page where you go shopping online and you go to like Sports Authority and you're looking for sneakers. So you type in sneakers and then a whole bunch of pictures of sneakers come up. Well, they didn't create a web page with those sneakers. They have a database somewhere else with a list of all the sneakers they're currently selling. The web page goes and reads from that and then builds a web page based on what was there. So if they add a new sneaker to their inventory, they would add it to the database, not to the web page. The web page will just go over to the database and read it and then display it. Okay. So the next example is email blasts, which don't, these are fun, but the Monmouth server won't do this. Let's see if you can understand why the Monmouth server won't do this. But basically I'm asking for a subject. So again, it's a form. I'm asking for a subject. I'm asking for an email address. And then I have a button called blast the emails. So what do I do after they hit the button? After they hit the button, this web page, which is essentially now a program because it's a PHP page, this will display a page that says PHP, this block will be removed, and what will be put in its place. It will send an email to me. I actually set this to me because I thought the students would start using this to start firing off a lot of emails, so they'd all come to me. And then when you say mail in PHP, if you say mail, and then, M-A-I-L, an email address, a subject, and some message, it will actually send that email to that person. So have you ever gotten emails from, so you join up something like, Facebook, for example. You get emails that say like, you have notifications to reply to or something like that. That's not a human being sending you that. That's some program that just runs once a week or once a month. And it's doing mail. It got your email address out of a database, said whatever the subject is, you have notifications. And then in here it said, dear, whatever your name is, you have 35 notifications, or whatever information was in the database about you, and it sent out that email. So Monmouth server here on campus doesn't allow this. They disabled this. Can you guess why they disabled it here? I mean, I actually tried it. I tried it and then realized it doesn't work, and then I thought it might be obvious. But does anyone know why they would have disabled it? Well, so, I mean, you could have used this just to kind of send anonymous email out to people, and you probably get anonymous email, your home account. So they didn't want the school server to be used for students to just. This is just like one line of code. You could just keep hitting this button and it'll keep sending out the email. So in this case, so I said email blast, but this doesn't work at Monmouth. You could create a form that says, who do you want to email to, what's the subject, and what's the text of, the body of the email, and just hit a button. You just start sitting here, bang, 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 and you just send out 50 emails to people. So they don't want that coming off of Monmouth server. But if you buy your own server, that part will work. Okay, now another thing we can do is uploading a file to a server. So, uploading files. So, this is the first page. The first page is a simple form, nothing else. So I have a form, And the object I'm trying to collect is the type is file. So that tells the form, it could go searching on the computer of the client, looking for the file they're trying to upload to the server. So you've done this when you upload a picture to Facebook. That's a picture on your PC, you're the client, and then you do an upload to Facebook. Then they get a copy of the picture. And then it gets loaded into their database, and then all the people who are your friends can get access to it. So in this case, after the file is uploaded, part B, I send a message. I take the file you give me, I put it in a folder called upload, so upload slash is where it's going to, and then whatever name it is on your machine, that's what the name will be on my machine. And then if it works out well, I say your file has been uploaded. If there's some error, I'll tell you some error. Like for example, if the server is full and has no space, you'll try to upload it to me, and I'll have no space, and then I'll say I have an error. Okay, so what I can do here is, from this form, I run this code, I can browse, and then find some file, and hit upload, and it says it uploaded it. So, where did it go? I go back to my server. My server is in my public HTML, under PHP, and I had a thing called uploads. And here's the file. Here's a copy of the file that just showed up. So I have a folder called uploads, and people can just start shipping stuff to my folder. And hopefully, you manage your space, you don't run out of space. So, okay. So what other interesting things can we do? Okay, the stock quotes one was this is a great example. It's a little bit complicated, but what I'm doing is this. The code, I'm asking the person to give me a stock ticker like IBM. And then I want to know what is the current price of IBM. Now, where could I get that information from? I don't know it. The computer I'm on doesn't know it. But there are websites that do know it, like Yahoo Finance would know. So I can bring up I could read from a PHP program, Yahoo page, then read through all the words on it, looking for the price of it, and then parse that out. So that code got a little bit complicated, but you can start, the point I'm trying to illustrate with this is you could do things like, if you wanted to make a web page that every time you went to the web page, it tells you today is Wednesday, and the temperature is, you could go out to some weather page for the town you live in, and you can get today's temperature and then print out today's temperature. And then you can print out the scores of your favorite baseball team. So you can make a web page that every time you go to it, it tells you a whole bunch of stuff that matters to you. And that's really what the guy who invented this PHP thing, I think it's from Finland or Switzerland, when he called it PHP, the name is originally personal homepage. He wrote a bunch of programs that just goes and gathers information that was important to him. So he could just go to his webpage and see what's important to him. And then it turned out this was really useful for many other things, so it became really popular. So that's what that button is. I'm sorry, that's what that webpage does. Then there is an example like this. Okay, so really nothing too interesting here. I just have a form that has a radio button. So radio button is where you can pick one of these, but if you pick one, then the other one becomes unchecked. So for example, you could type in your name, should we end class now, yes, no, or maybe, and hit submit. And then I added a reset button. If you want to give a whole bunch of answers and you decide you don't like them, you can reset them. So if you wanted to, what this code will do is it's taking a survey. So the code looks like this. The first page, the page we just saw, is asking, these are radio buttons, asking for a yes, no, or a maybe. To the question, should we end class now? It's also asking what is your name, and it's saving your name. And then you hit submit, And the action is to go to the webpage, example 10 step 2.php. And what that page does is it takes those answers and does what with them? It takes the answers, you send it. So basically I get your name and your vote. And I say thank you for voting. So if you guys want to try this, what I can now do is take a survey of if you guys are logged in. You guys are not logged in? Oh, okay. I was just going to say you could all vote. And then we could see what everybody's vote is. So whether we should end class or not end class, or maybe. So another one that this would have been interesting if we had a lot of people here today. But this is a web page I just put together as a birthday tally. So this is from this was a probability question in mathematics that basically said if you have the answer to the question was if you have 23 people together and you ask them what is your birthday, not what year, just the day and the month. If you have 23 people, there's a 50% chance that 2 people will have a match in the room. Have you ever heard this in math class? You have?
Yeah.
Okay, do you remember the answer being 23 or?
I'm not really sure what the number is, but whenever we tried it, it never worked out.
Oh, really? So no one had a matching birthday?
No.
Okay, maybe we could try this next class when we have more than 23 people here. So what we can do is you could all log in and take this survey. So what you'd be doing is picking your birthday. So you just pick, you know, something like this, and you put in your name, say Jim, and hit submit. And thank you for entering your birthday. And what I'll do is, what that does is back on the server, I just got that answer. So the server is here. And output from example 11. I think that was example 11. Jim is May 25th. Oh, I even converted that number into the letter. So what we can do next class is everyone can take this survey, and then we'll see if there's a match. So it's supposed to be 50% of the time. If you have 23 people, there's a 50% chance someone will match. So we can try that next class. So now the other thing I could have done, the way I wrote this program, maybe I'll do this before next class. All we would do is have everybody's answer. We would just have, let's say 30 people here, we'd have 30 answers. So if I said to everyone, take the survey right now, right, you just answer the 2 questions, hit the submit button. By the time everyone's done, we'll have 30 answers. But we'll have to look with our eyes to see if the month and the day match for anybody. Maybe I could write a program that reads through this and then says, yes, we have matches or we don't have matches, and what day the matches were on. So you kind of get a flavor for why we need programming in some web pages. So like I say, if everybody logged into this web page and took this survey, all I'm really doing is gathering up the answers. I'm not doing any analysis on the answers. Maybe I should have another button that says, look for matches, and then I could hit that. And then we could have made the web page, for example, if we wanted to, this wouldn't be too hard to do using PHP. We can have everybody in the class type in when their birthday is. Then it can go look for matches and then send an email to the people who matched. Hey, your birthday matches this person. So only those 2 people know that they have a matching birthday. If your birthday doesn't match anybody, you'll get an email saying you don't match anybody, something like that. So these are the kind of things we could do with these web pages. And these programs are not too hard to do. And then the last example I wanted to go over, which is extremely similar to creating a blog, is creating a comment with a timestamp. So here's an example of if you wanted to put a web page together where you ask somebody to supply a comment, we record their comment and what time they entered the comment. But we could also record other information like what their email address is or anything like that. So I have a form, as always, I have a form. I'm asking them for their comment, and it looks like that's all I'm asking them for. I'm asking them for a comment. And what am I doing after they hit the button? That's the web page. After they give me their comment, what am I doing? I'm recording their comment in example 12 results.txt. I'm saying comment timestamp. I go out to the computer and I ask for the day, month, and year. Looks like hours and minutes too. I record their IP address so I know who sent this to me. And then I say to them, thank you, your comment is important to us. So, if I went to this page, this is the actual code that you just saw. So I made a comment box and I have a button, submit comments. So you can type in some comment, hit the button, and what will be recorded is their IP address, what their comment was, and when they made the comment. And obviously we could put more things on here, like what's your email address and stuff like that, and save that too. So, can anyone think of a comment I should put in? I'll put in, this is the last example. And I'll hit submit, and it says, thank you, your comment is important to us. But what really happened was I recorded their comment. And if I go back to my server storage, PHP folder, the output, example, 12 results. I read this. I actually wrote a lot of stuff. So I said, comment timestamp, January 25th, 2012 at 6:54 p.m. The IP address was, so this is the address of the machine that sent the comment, and then I wrote what the comment is. This is the last example. So if everybody logged into this page, you could just start loading up comments all over the place. So what is, for example, what is a blog? If you wanted to create a web page that's a blog, what exactly is a blog? If you just described in English what is going on in a blog. So people make comments, right? If you've ever gone to a blog, people make comments. Looks, something like this. You have an area to make a comment. Maybe it could be an anonymous blog, like the one I just did, although I'm recording everybody's IP address. You could also ask the person to identify themselves if they want to. And then they hit a button, and what happens to that comment? Their comment gets added to the blog. So the blog is just a bunch of comments from random people, usually in timestamp order. And then if you make a comment and hit a button, your comment either shows up at the top or bottom, whichever order it's in. Maybe the most recent ones are at the top. So you type in some comment, hit something, and then your comment shows up on the top for the whole world to see. Then someone else could add another comment, and this goes on top of yours, right? So that's basically what a blog is. So if you wanted to create a blog, a web page that has a blog, what would you have to do? It's two things we went over tonight. So it's not too hard to make a blog, and maybe what we could do next week is create a blog. It's not too hard to do. What would we have to do? We have to put up a form that asks them for a comment and whatever information we want to record in the blog. When they hit the button, we would write it to the file, the blog file. But now we'd like to be able to see what they've recorded. So what would we have to do there?
The results of the survey show the comments.
Yeah, so one of the examples I went over tonight was if somebody gives us a comment, we record it somewhere. Another example I went over was read a file and display what you read. So now we're just doing both. Every time we bring up the web page, we go out to the file where the blog is recorded, read the whole thing, and display it. And then say, what else would you like to say? And then if they type in a comment and hit a button, we write that comment to the file, then we go and read the entire file all over again and redisplay it. And just keep doing that over and over. So all we're really doing with a blog is one part of the page is where a person can enter their new comment, and the other part of the page is all the comments from the past. And if they add a new comment and hit the button, this page goes away, the comment gets written to the file, and then the page comes back up, only it goes out to the file, reads everything, and then displays it again. And then you would just see your comment being added. So that's not too hard at all. Maybe we could do that next class. We'll create a blog. It's really simple. And then you realize you could, do stuff in Dreamweaver to make your blog look more pretty or whatever, but getting the mechanics to work is pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's a introduction to the PHP programming language. Like I say, every program we ran today ran on the server side. Some of the stuff that we went over tonight would have to run on the server side. For example, anything that's recorded on the server, the program would have to run on the server side. So, for example, if you upload a picture of yourself onto Facebook, and then somebody who is a friend of yours wants to see it, that picture is not on their PC, it has to be on the server. So they would have to go into the server, and the program running on the server would have to get that picture for them and give it to your machine. The example we went over tonight where we asked somebody what is their name, what is their birth date, and then we told them how old they were, that didn't have to be run on the server, right? If someone was born in, whatever we said, 1982, you have to go back to the server. Is the server the only place in the world that can figure out what's today's date and subtract 1982 from it and then say you're 26 years old? That could have been done on your machine. So that we could have done, we didn't have to do that one in PHP. We could have done that in JavaScript on their machine. That one we kind of had a choice where to do it. And it's probably better, anytime you can do the computation on their machine, it's better to do it on their machine